Hi all. In this session, I am going to cover Oracle Dataguard interview question answer, and it will be the first part. And here in this first part, I am going to cover a few most important, very frequently asked interview question. On the basis of my 9 year of Oracle DBA experience, I have seen like interviewer ask few more frequent questions. So I am going to cover those frequent questions here. So the first question is, what is difference between a physical and logical standby database, and how would you decide which one is best suitable for your environment? So the physical standby database, as the name suggests, it it is physically very identical to your primary database, and like physical part like data file schema and the other physical identity will be same as your primary database, and it synchronized with the primary database with redo apply to the standby database. But since your physical standby database is read only mode, so during that period your redo log will not get applied. And let's see logical standby database. So as the name suggests, for logical informations is the same as production database. It may be physical structure can be different. It synchronized with the primary database through SQL apply, and redo receive from the primary database into a SQL statement, and then it get executed execute this SQL statement to a standby database. We can open a physical standby DB to a read-only mode and make it available to the application users for executing since it is read-only mode. So you can like users can execute select query during this period, and we cannot apply a read log received from the primary database at this time. And then we do not see such issue with the logical standby database, because this logical database will be in normal mode like read write mode, open mode, to make it, and it will be available for user. At the same time, you will be able to apply SQL, that will be yeah, SQL apply can be happen at the same time, which is coming from primary database. The next question is, ex- explain active data guard. So active data guard means the standby database is open with read only mode when reader logs are getting applied in real time. Below are the benefit of using active data guard. Reporting query can be offloaded to a standby database. It's the first benefit, I could say. And the next is physical block corruptions are repaired automatically either at primary or physical standby database. Like any block corruption which will be happening on a primary or standby, it will get since both the environment are real time synced to each other. So if let's suppose in primary any corruptions is happening, so with stand active data guard, since it's real time apply, both have same similar data. So another standby database can recover that physical block corruption, and that happened vice versa. And the next is Arman backup can be initiated from the standby database. Means your physical database load will get reduced if you are executing your Arman backup from your standby database instead of primary, which will reduce the CPU load from the primary. And the note is, to use active data guard, you need additional license from Oracle. That is one important part. Like other features like physical and logical and snapshot, this all comes under same license of Datagard, but for active Datagard you have to buy a separate license. The next question is, what is Snapshot standby database? Snapshot standby database, Oracle 11G introduced the Snapshot standby database, which essentially is an updatable standby database which has been created from a physical standby database we can convert a physical standby database in to a snapshot database, do some kind of testing on a database which is which is read write copy of a current primary and production database, and then finally convert it its earlier state as a primary database. That's the benefit. We could say, like, if you convert your primary database into snapshot database, it will be available into a read write mode, and you can do your testing. It will be a kind of clone environment of your production. You can do a real time testing with your production data, and then once your work is done, you can convert back to a physical standby database, and whatever the changes will be made on your production data, on your snapshot database, that will get vanished out. And again, during the snapshot, your whatever the archive will be coming from primary to standby side, that will not be applied till that time. It will be in the snapshot mode, and then once you will convert it back to a physical standby Datagaurd database, it will get applied. Those all changes will, like, as you can see, while the snapshot database is open read write mode, redo is receiving from the primary database, but it is not applying. After converting back to a physical standby database, it is resynchronized with the primary by applying the accumulated redo data which was earlier stripped from the primary database but not applied. Using a snapshot standby database, we are able to do a real-time application testing using a near real-time production data. Very often we are required to do the production cloning for the purpose of testing, but using a snapshot standby database, we can meet the same requirement, sparing the effort of time, resource, and disk space. Obviously, like, we create a clone environment and we do a refresh activity. Those it required extra effort and resource and time. So for doing all those, we can obviously, like, disk space is also required if you are creating any clone production database. So for doing all those, we can directly convert by just executing a single select alter statement. With that, it will get converted into snapshot, and then you can do your testing and then convert it back to a physical. That's very easy and very comfortable, I could say. Explain different production mode. This is also a very most important question. Even the previous question was also very important. So explain, this is like one of the most common question you will get in your interview. Explain different production mode in a Datagaurd. Like, we have a 3 production mode. In that, maximum performance is by default mode, and the first is maximum performance, sorry, performance is by default mode. First is maximum protection, second is maximum availability, and third is maximum performance. So let's start with maximum protection. This mode provides a maximum protection. It guarantees a zero data loss. In this mode, the redo transaction must be written to both primary read log and standby read log for any reason. Like, for any reason, mostly network issue. If it is not available to write to a standby, then the primary will get shut down. If a user commits a transaction, then that commit will not be completed unless the primary receives the confirmation that the that retail that write is completed on standby. Like, whatever the committed transactions are coming from primary, that has to get acknowledged by the standby side, and that acknowledgement has to be received by primary. Then only that commit will happen on a standby primary side. That is kind of synchronous system where it is happening simultaneously. It is not waiting for like, it will not wait. So it have 100% protection. There is no data loss. So that's the virtue here. And the next is maximum availability. If it provides the highest level of data protection that is possible without affecting the availability of the primary database. Transactions are not allowed to commit until all the logs are written on the reader to the online reader log and propagated to at least one synchronized standby database. If for any reason the primary cannot propagate its reader stream to any standby database, then the primary will shut down and will not shut down. This is the difference. In maximum protection mode, primary will get shut down, but here primary will not shut down and operates as it is it were in a maximum protection mode until the issue will fix. Means in any situation, primary will not shut down even there is no acknowledgement received from the standby side. So that's the difference here. Like in maximum protection, without acknowledgement, if it will not receive any acknowledgement, then it will shut down the primary db. But here it will not shut down the primary db and it will continue. Means till the time there is no problem, it will behave as synchronous mode. And if there is a primary if there is a any problem in primary database, like it's not able to propagate the radio transmission to a standby database and not receiving any acknowledgement, then it will continue as a asynchronous mode. So that's the difference here. So means in maximum protection mode, there is a guarantee of zero data loss, but in maximum availability, guarantee is only for availability, not for zero data loss. So now the next is, the third is maximum performance. That is by default mode. If you are setting up your data guard and not choosing these modes, then it will be a maximum performance mode. This is the by default mode. With this protection mode, a transitions is committed as soon as the redo data needs to recover the transaction is written to the local online redo logs. Means it will not be waiting for any acknowledgement. Once the any transaction getting committed, it will immediately it will get right to the online read log and then it will get archived. So this table also can explain the same thing. Like maximum protection mode is in synchronous mode, maximum availability is synchronous mode, and maximum performance is asynchronous from the starting itself. So action with no standby database connection. So maximum protection mode, the maximum protection, the primary database needs to write redo at least one standby database, otherwise it will shut down. Means uh, it will not be sustaining till the time it will not receive the acknowledgement from the standby, any standby database. So that's the reason the risk of data loss is zero here, and like 100% guarantee. In maximum availability, normal works as a synchronous redo transport. If the primary database cannot write redo data in any of the standby database, it continue processing a transaction as a asynchronous mode. Means there is a slight chance of zero data loss in normal mode operation, but no guarantee. Means slight data loss possibility is there. In maximum performance, it's running in asynchronous mode. Never expect acknowledgement from the standby database. Potential for minimum data loss in a normal operation. So the next question is, how many standby logs needs to be created and what should be the size? The answer is, it is recommended to create one additional standby log group per thread, as its size should be same as primary reader log. Suppose we have four number of reader log groups with 200 M on primary, then we need to create a 5 standby reader log of 200 M. Why extra during heavy DML activity on primary? This extra standby log will help as a buffer in copying with the sync up. Note: Oracle recommends not to multiplex the standby reader log on, as it puts the unnecessary IO overhead during the log shipping. The next question is, what is difference between switchover and failover? So by name itself you can understand, like, switchover is happening in a systematic planned way, but failover is something which is happening unexpectedly. So this way you have to understand this. A switchover means just switching the role between a primary database and standby database. Switchover, the primary database change to a standby role, and the standby database change to a primary role, and this is typically done for planned maintenance of the primary database server. A failover is when the primary database fails on a standby database is transitions to take over the primary role. Failover is performed only in the catastrophic failover of primary database, and there is no uh, possibility of covering the primary in a timely manner. The failover may or may not results of data loss depends on the protection mode if affected at the time of failover. So the next question is, like, here overall we can understand, like, the switchover is happening in a planned window where the role changes are happening between primary to standby, and failover is happening in a instant mode where there is no planning, and it's happening where the rule changes are happening, like standby has to become a primary, and primary has to it means it will not wait for primary to come up. Like, there is no possibility of recovering a primary database in any time manner. Failover may or may not results of any data loss, depends on the protection mode we are using it. So the next question is, what is the purpose of what is the process to apply a PSU patch on a Datagard setup? So this is also very important question. Like, you will get this question very frequently in your interview. So the first step is, make sure lag between the primary and standby is zero. Then cancel the MRP process on standby. Shut down the standby DB and listener. Apply patch on standby database Oracle home binary using opatch apply command. Once the patch apply to a binary, start up the listener and standby in mount mode or open mode if it is active Datagard. And now shut down the primary database and listener. Apply patch to a primary database by Oracle home binary using opatch apply command. Once the patch is applied to binary, start up open the primary database and listener, and then start the MRP recovery process to standby, and then run post patching script cat bundle.sql before till 11G and onward 12C onward, data patch hyphen was boss on primary database. What are the different type of apply services in Datagard? So the first is redo apply. With redo apply service wait for a standby redo log to be archived from before applying the redo log to a standby. And the next is real time apply. If the real-time apply feature is enabled, then the apply service can apply the redo log either from the redo log buffer or redo log file as it is received without waiting for the current standby redo log file to be archived. Like, means at the time it will receive from primary to standby redo log, the redo log redo data, it will immediately apply in real time. But in redo apply, it will wait for redo file to archive, and then it will apply. So that's the difference here. And In the next lecture, I'll be covering the remaining important questions. So thanks for watching till here.